the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Countdown to Cheltenham 2026. I'm Scott McPike. It is a pleasure to be your host as always, and we are only 7 weeks away from the Cheltenham Festival, and we're getting to the stage now. It's Cheltenham Trials Day this weekend, DRF next weekend, so it's fairly busy from now on out. To join me as always to look back on another fascinating week, it's a pleasure from the Scottish Daily Mail, joined by Callum McClurkin.
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, it's definitely getting interesting now. It's warming up. A lot of horses having their final run before, get the DRF now. We've had novice hurdle entries this week as well. So, yeah, it's all becoming very real.
Yeah, and we've got obviously a big weekend to preview later on, but we did have some action to cover. We'll start with the big race of the weekend. A Mickey Mouse race by some reports, as we'll talk about in a second, but the Clarence House, another Grade 1 win for Jonbon. Very fascinating race. Again, 4 runners made it to post, only 2 finished. Can I go through the horses individually? We'll start with Jonbon. He's clearly at a stage where 2 miles is not the be-all and end-all. I just took away from it. Again, it's another amazing result for connections, but can't help but think his next run should be the Ascot Chase, and I wouldn't be overly surprised if they patched Cheltenham altogether.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, Ascot Chase is the route they're going, and he looks definitely in need of a trip now, doesn't he? You know, he kind of outstayed them in what was a very, very attritional race. Yeah, and he's very, very consistent and still high class, and you know he's very rarely out the top 2 at all grades. Really, even when things go wrong for him, in the champion chase, you know, made a massive blunder. He still did really well for second. He's hard enough, and if he goes to Cheltenham, you'd imagine it'd be the Ryanair. I think that's what they're looking at, and he'd definitely have an each way chance in that. But I think, you know, lacks a gear at top level. I think it'd be difficult for him to win a champion chase. And if it did all kind of fall in line for him, I think it'd have to kind of fall apart for him to win. But no, he keeps on turning up at kind of every dance and doing really, really well. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely an each way player wherever he goes now. It'd be interesting what they do. I mean, if you do go Ascot Chase, you know, that'll be a lot of racing this season, and you know they might skip Cheltenham. You know, we know that he doesn't really act too brilliantly there in the springtime, and he's 2 for 2 over 2.5 miles. So just skip that, go Melling Chase, and maybe take their chance back at the end of the season at Sandown, back to 2 miles, and that's what they might do. Yeah, definitely interesting, and 2.5 mile division might be more of his comfort zone now.
Well, I think we can kind of draw a line on him in terms of a champion chase. I think his chance to win a champion chase was last year. I don't think he's
probably.
Vassilask, who I think we both kind of thought was maybe not at this level. Is he went up in your estimation?
Absolutely. After that, no, he ran a blinder. He was a horse that kind of dictated from the front. Didn't really get taken on, probably because there was not enough natural speed really to take him on with. Went there, zip round, and he's probably definitely a celebration chase horse at the end of the season. Where he kind of dictated things, jumped quite well, and only really get outstayed from the back of last. But you know, he definitely put the kind of fancy 2 in the market on the stretch. His jumping was by far the best. I think like the IQ index in him he made about 9 lengths in the air over them. He's not going to be able to dictate a champion chase, I'd imagine. And I don't think he is that level. Not quite. And I mean, he had a lot kind of go his way, and he still ultimately at the end get outstayed. I don't think he's a top notcher, but I mean, his jumping and the way he goes about his business, he's kind of like a British Solness in the way he kind of operates.
That's what I was going to bring up. So he's got up £45 in the handicap since the 25th of October.
That was definitely a
Kind of,
lifetime best as well.
yeah.
I mean, you kind of and handicap, you kind of, how do you really measure that against very good graded horses? You could there. I mean, that was high 150s stuff.
Yeah, it was a good performance, and again, it's kind of the what do you do with him next? Because I don't think he's championship level, and you can't throw him in a handicap. So they might just keep him for like a celebration chase. You might see him turn up. There's maybe 2 mile races he can go to between now and then. Early to Tomp, 2 to 5 on he was. I thought early on he just looked flat, and they switched him out wide. I thought initially it was to get some better ground, but youth kind of thought privately that it was to do with just to get him in a better position. It just wasn't a great run, and then obviously falls 2 out. Thankfully, he got back up in his feet. It didn't look good at the start. I think if you were a Cheltenham backer, you absolutely can't go back in. If you did have the worry about Cheltenham, you absolutely can't go back in again. So I just think his Cheltenham chances are just pretty much in the bin, to be honest, in my view. I just couldn't have him. I probably couldn't have him before, but even less now, especially coming off a bad fall like that.
Yeah, I mean, out to eights. Like, if you were quite keen on him, I wouldn't be overly concerned. Cheltenham's just probably not extracting. We've had 3 kind of bits of evidence about that where he's just kind of been below the level that you need to win in the Triumph, Supreme, and the Arkle that he had. He ran all right, but not really kind of good enough to suggest he's a champion chase winner. I actually think he could have won this race. If you look at over the second last, he's only half a length away from Jonbon, really, and they're all just kind of boxing on. And the way they've finished suggests to me that he could have just boxed on and won this. I think that's probably why the only reason he was never travelling, but his class was kind of keeping him in it. Too bad to be true, said the Mullins camp. Look, probably, he was never happy. He was never taking a true cut in his fences. When they pull him out wide, a bit like Fact to Fairly King George for me is they want to kind of their fences and they're not happy. And to me, that was exactly the case there. The fact he was still boxing on, like he basically took that fence almost upside Jonbon and jumped it all right until he just kind of crumpled in landing it. It was a tired fall, but they were all tired to it. I actually think he wasn't out of it, believe it or not. I do, and he is a kind of, he does stay further. We saw that in Throws where he had a bloodless win at 2 mile 5 really on heavy ground. So the ground was an excuse. Mullins and his horses, Energamine get beaten this quite regularly. I think that because the ground was softer than I thought a lot of people expected it would be. I think he was probably 10% undercooked, and it found him out for this, like Energamine was back in the day, really. It's used as a trial by Willie Mullins. And I think the two top were probably hard fit. He wasn't. Caught him out badly. I still think he's put in the best 2 mile performance of the season, and it's Sandown. Yeah. And if you are a fan of this horse and he's out at eights, and you do think, like I think, that he was 85-90% and he was caught out as a result of that, and Willie Mullins could bring him on from that, I don't think he's totally out of it. I mean, eights each way, it's skimpy, it's tight. It's hard to see him winning at Cheltenham because of his track record, but I think he can bounce back to a performance of that level. I think he has an each-way chance.
Okay.
I think he's the only horse in the race that's got a chance of champion chase, I would say. But as Barry Connor would say, on spring ground, on what he wants. After looking at that race, a hard race, it is kind of Marine Nationals for the taking at the moment.
I understand the early to Tomp working you're showing. As the concern though there, he's come off.
The track is a concern. The concern for me is not that race.
Is the fall not a bigger concern? That was a crashing fall.
No, but he's got up. He winded. Walking around, he's fine. I'm not overly concerned about that. he was moving fine afterwards. The Mullins camp have said it was too bad to be true. Put a line through it, and we were told to put a line through Energy one, and he was absolutely fine. Or it might not be Cheltenham. It might be Sandown at the end of the season. This horse will bounce back. And he is a hardy horse. I mean, if you look through his back catalogue, every single time he's underperformed at Cheltenham, he's came back at the end of the season absolutely fine. So I wouldn't. You might rule him out Cheltenham because of his Cheltenham track record more than what happened there. Horses are entitled to bad runs at one time. It's not a kind of. It's not an exact science. He underperformed. I think they were kind of. I think they thought this was more of a penalty kick than they think, and I thought he was. I thought he was a little bit undercooked. And on soft ground at Ascot, if you're not fit enough, you're going to get beat.
Well, Gidley Park was the other one in the race. Again, I think there's performances there time to time. I think his health and just his consistency just lets him down.
Fragile.
Yeah, too fragile. Barry Connell was very bullish, as he often can be, and he was on kind of savage form again here with his quote after the race. He said that I can't see any of these horses having a chance in a champion chase. I couldn't see it before the race, and I can't see it now. It was a Mickey Mouse race. I've seen a bit of criticism for this. Again, he's a confident guy. The times he's been confident about this horse, he's been proven right.
Yeah, 2 for 2 at Cheltenham, isn't he? He knows how to campaign the horse, kind of his own quirks. And he feels that if they jump round, have a clear round of jumping, he'll win it again, and it's pretty hard to disagree with. I mean, I don't mind what he's saying. I mean, but a needle, I think's absolutely fine. I mean, it's a lot of it's kind of for show, really, isn't it? It's kind of like your kind of Eddie Hearn would say, build up a boxing match, isn't it? I don't see any harm in it or any kind of malice in it or whatever. Yeah. He believes in his horse and he trains it and he owns it as well.
Yeah,
that's the other big point. And so he's probably more emotionally invested than most in it. Defending champion, probably holds all the aces. Had his mistake out of the way at Leopardstown. It's his first run. He's going to come on for it. He's campaigned around the spring all the time, and he likes better ground, and he should get that at Cheltenham. And he's very effective around there. Unlike what used to be the second favourite, where he's not from 3 and he's 2 from 2, and that's why he was 94 versus 5-2 initially. Now he's blotted his copybook. His biggest rival is arguably definitely gone backwards. So yeah, I'd be more bullish on him, and that's why he's now 64.
Yeah, I think there's every possibility 64 could look big this time in 2 weeks when he maybe wins at the Dublin Racing Festival. I do think there's a potential bet in this race. So when you talked about skimpy prices, hear me out here. I think you might laugh at this, but please hear me out. Is there a possibility in this race that Load the Sud is a forgotten horse? I think you can draw a line through his Tingle Creek run. His Cheltenham record is a lot better than a lot of horses in here. We know he goes well fresh. They're going to keep him for Cheltenham. I think 8-1. If I was having a bet in this race, if you gave me 64 Marine National or Load the Sud 8-1 to finish in the first 3, I think I'd be siding with the Skelton horse here.
I don't think he's good enough. I mean, the Schlur, he beat Jonbon, and you could say, that's been enhanced. To me, he's £10 off a champion chaser. Now he could improve. He's a bit unexposed, but 8s now. I mean, he was 16-21s before 20s beforehand. They're campaigning him right. I think soft ground probably important to him. The thing, and he's a pretty efficient jumper. It only takes one mistake in that race to knock you 6 times and you're out of it. The one I think's overpriced is Solace at 20s. Really, to me, I think he's a better horse than Load the Sud for me.
Okay.
Cheltenham is a question mark. Is he that effective? Does he just plunder them at Leopardstown and he can dictate? Well, the start of the champion chase last season was a joke, and there was a lot of talk about how Jonbon was affected by that and how he reared up at the tape. It affected Songs badly because he couldn't dominate, couldn't get to the front. And he likes going to the front and he likes dictating, and Energumene also went a stupidly mental pace that day and really kind of set it up for a smooth travelling Marine Nationale and Quilixios in behind. It's hard to see him doing that again at the age of 11 if he turns up. And if they have a conventional start and decent ground, I don't really see why a horse like that, who you know is capable at Group 1 level, winning, beating Marine Nationale, horses like that, Majborough, who isn't out of it with a clear round, I think he's far disrespected at 20. So he would be my each way angle in the race. I do think the favourite's hard to ignore because he just, the way he trains and the way he's peaked into it. And he's mid to high 160s form come springtime, and I think LAT Tomp's the only horse and figures that can get near that, and it's hard to see him doing that around Cheltenham. So yeah, and I don't think Lewis has done anything near 160.
Okay, but this obviously market is quite fascinating, even though there's a 64 favourite, and we will obviously cover it more in the coming weeks. Let's get into some performances over the weekend. We're going to go for 3 performances each. I think I know where you're going to start.
Old Park Star. Yeah, I mean, he won this by 16 lengths at Haydock, and he had everything go his own way. He dictated, but again, from the second last of the line, wickedly impressive. He had the hint. He had the hint of being the wow factor novice last time for sure, and he built on that again. 94 now for the Supreme. You can definitely see why. I think he's light years above the rest at the moment, and I kind of suspected that he was. His jumping can be better. I think, like for instance, My Daddy Paddy would be a far slicker jumper than him, but Old Park Star's a superior horse and a superior engine, and yeah, I was a bit what Haydock's a bit. It's definitely sharper than what he's used to. But he's put away a good rival there by 16 lengths. Maybe not Rance's highest, but yeah, he's a good half stone clear of everything else now, and it's going to take a very smart one to come out of the DRF to stop this boy in the Supreme.
Yeah, 9-4. Again, very interesting that this is his only entry for the festival. We'll maybe get into that later on because I think there might be a reason for that. The fascinating thing, obviously, is beat Hurricane Pat the way he has. Hurricane Pat beat him on a bumper in November 2024. So I do think Hurricane Pat's a decent operator, and he's blasted them comfortably. I think you can look at this market in terms of potential. I think Old Park Star's got the potential to improve a lot further. I don't know if anything else in the market is going to get anywhere near a 151 rating in a Supreme.
Well, he's not 151 again. That's
He's not 151. It is a stupid mark, but he's capable of bettering that, I think.
But to me, I mean, they're good guys. These numbers, but I mean, they're all overinflated. Not just him. I mean, practically every horse in the universe is. That was my mind solid mid 140s, and I've only given 138 as the highest before that, and he was on 136 for me before that, so he was bang up there anyway. To me, he was on top of the list anyway, and he's just further clear. He's just built on that £10. If he does that in the Supreme again, he'll definitely be one of the highest Supreme numbers that I would definitely put. I mean, I barely put 150 up for the Supreme. The Slade Steel year didn't get to 150, so I mean. And Slade Steel's gone on and done absolutely next to nothing since. So, justifiably low, but he's bang there. He's proved better. And to me, he'll probably get better in a better race as well when he's got a bit of cover, But they just went out there thinking, and he was confidently ridden with reasonable enough fractions. Hurricane Pat, I think he kind of pulled a bit hard as well. I didn't think he had much chance of seeing that out too much. Haydock, particularly when it's not soft, suits front runners, and he did have his all way, and he wasn't 3 out. He kind of backed off one slightly a little bit. To me, I actually think he's a Turner's horse. I really do. I really think
Yeah.
he would beat No Drama This End quite comfortably, and I think he'd get the trip quite comfortably. I think he might just be a kind of very forward novice, like, Ballyburn appreciate it, where whatever race you will put them in here, they're going to win. I think he'd definitely win the title. I think he's probably going to win the Supreme. I think if you were going to take him on, you would take it on with kind of maybe pacier, slicker horse. El Kairos could be that. Got a lot to find. He's only going to be in maiden company. He's only going to take a maiden in before there, but he is the type of horse that could beat him with one late run with speed. Could be a kind of Shishkin Abacadabra year.
The only concern I would have
Oh,
is if El Kairos, what would he find in a finish? Would be my concern.
I think he finds jealous enough. I think what is he going to do after the last in that hill? Because you can see him lugging one way, and Old Part Star maybe just being more straightforward than him. He does have the odd quirk. I don't think he's ungenuine. I think he's kind of, there's a little bit kind of missing in behind the ears when the finish happens. I think he runs to the line pretty well. I think my concern would be after the last meeting the hill, would he jink around and throw it away again like he kind of did the last day, which was harshly put as a fall. It'd be more of an unseat for me. Talk the talks, jumping's got to be sharper, but he's a player. And Willie Mullins might have something that comes out DRF.
This isn't my performance of the weekend, but what do you think of this Mighty Park?
I was pretty surprised how a lot of people were taken by it. I mean, Willie Mullins came out and raved about it really afterwards, didn't he? Won by 38 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I suppose when you
And
do that,
they raved about the one in second, the Rock Dino. I think he's lined up. He was lined up with a county hurdle in mind. I think he has got 4 runs over hurdle.
from France. Yeah, I don't really like that rule. I think
That's a silly rule.
if you're putting a strict running rule at place, I don't think you can just come up with horses from France and chuck them in whenever. It blindsides a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, he's probably out. Just a lot of non-jiggers in behind, really, isn't there? But he made a very big impression. It looks to be tunnels are the way they're going with him. Whether they kind of squeak a kind of run in a kind of soft grade 3 or something in between just before Cheltenham, which he seemed to look to do, they're definitely going to try and get a run into him. Something like a Michael Purcell would probably just work out time wise. You maybe want to see him in a bit of a better race, but yeah, number wise, yeah, he's definitely up there, not far away, definitely not far off the favourite, and he'll have a lot of his backers and the yard obviously rate him really, really highly. So it's about 10-1 or something. Can't argue with that.
I think 12s is there as well. But yeah, I mean, the Supreme Market's quite fascinating. I'll say this a lot, and this week we'll learn a lot more next weekend. Probably my performance of the weekend, I really liked the performance we saw from Winston Jr., but halfway down the running, I was thinking he's gone too far here. They're going to blow a mark, but they've not been given too high a rate in handicap. Get 7, I think he's still, I think 132, I think he got, which is 131. He got Put Your Hands Together won this last year off 130, so it's not insurmountable that he's good value here in a Boodles 11-2. You can argue is a bit short, but he's certainly the one that's made the most impression in that division, I think.
Second favourite wasn't off. The rest couldn't really jump well. I think he's a shocking favourite. A shocking favourite. I mean, Ireland. He could have anything in hand there, and the fact this is 11-2, 6-1 already is
not a great race for favourites, but I thought there was a point in the race where I thought he's gone too fast here. They won't be able to. They'll put a ridiculous rating on him.
Only horse of ability in the race, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, usually I don't think he'd be out of place in a Triumph. Not saying he would win it, but I don't think he would. I don't think he'd be out of place in a Triumph.
I don't think it's a vintage juvenile year. I mean, Narciso has, Proactive have seen beating Macho Man, things like that. Man's Tuesday. They just don't seem to be wired that way at the moment, do they? If you gave his rating as his official rating, he'd be bang there for me, because I've not really seen anything that's been wildly impressive that you'd kind of naturally back the Triumph. Narciso has sets a standard. It's not an overly high one at the moment. I just think this is a division that a lot of players haven't really played their full hand. Winston Junior might still have, probably does, still have something in the tank. But I mean, you've seen the Green and Gold win this with horses that had £20 in hand. It only takes one of them to make Winston Junior 11-261 a terrible bet, to be honest.
Yeah, again, open race, but I think Winston Junior was
and one that's not really developed yet either, which makes me even think that it's worse, to be honest. Because there are so many that could be. There's the Ben Hur horse of no maid interests me in that, and he's one of 10 plausible Irish candidates for this.
Yeah, there's a few.
And when you go through the markets and you see 11-261 about a handicap like that, when it's juveniles, and there's definitely going to be at least 2 or 3 really seriously well handicapped Irish horses that either haven't been uncovered yet or probably haven't been seen yet. I would not be entertaining that whatsoever. It has a chance, but it's also a horse that I can't see getting any shorter. So
no,
I don't understand why you would back it now at all. There's no way this horse is going to get off 9-2, 5-1. So wait.
Right, I'm going to ask you just a bit about this division. Mares Novice Hurdle. We saw Bambino Fever win at 1-6. She's now 2-1 favourite for the Mares Novice. Did we arguably see a better performance, even though she got beaten La Conquière, who's 16s?
Probably similar level. Bambino Fever, nothing to beat. It's improved from a maiden, did it well. His back class, Willie Mullins factor, bumper, open to a lot of improvement. You can see why she's favourite. Has that kind of the graded profile that you want. La Conquière was backed in even money, and basically everyone backed her, myself included.
Yeah, me too.
But it's hard to go into open company against not top notchers, but reasonable horses without getting concessions and without really earning anything. And let's face it, was given a horrible ride. You cannot be in a race like that. There's only about 4 or 5. You cannot be 4 lengths back off the pace. You can't.
Yeah,
she was too far back. She got there on soft ground, and her finish just plateaued in the one that dictated. Like we often see, held on, just had a bit more and repelled her. It was an all right run. The feet, I think the yard have dipped a little bit in form as well, so it could be upgraded. And yeah, I would much rather back her each way than the favourite.
The horse that beat Bambino Fever out, Old Sky Outlaw, has been sold to JP McManus. I think that was going about for a few days. Is the Mares Novice Hurdle a market you've looked at?
Yeah, and it's definitely more open than the market suggests, I would say. I mean, Bambino Fever definitely want to beat it on potential grounds. Like there's a lot more there. Figuratively speaking, she hasn't really done a lot to suggest to be that clear in the market, and I don't think a lot of people have kind of looked at it too much in the way of numbers. She'd be favourite, but she wouldn't be 2-1 in my book. It should be more kind of 4-1, 9-2, really. I think there's been a bit of an overreaction to La Conquière's reverse, and I think a bigger field back against novices with what would probably be a stronger pace when she can come from the back on, and she needs better ground as well. I think she was one that was inconvenienced by the soft ground, and I think that would help her a lot. So, and they've won this before where you wear it well, and it's a race that, as you say beforehand, a lot of hot pots have been sunk in, and I can maybe see Bambino Fever being another one. I don't think she's the Tony Mullins bank or the
Yeah,
festival yet.
yeah. Well, again, Willie Mullins won the first 5 renewals and he hasn't won any of the last 5. And I don't remember him being close. Like, there's been a few Willie Mullins fancied horses been well beaten this. I remember Glens of Antrim, your favourite, remember? Go back then, like Hook Up.
She only went off 671, didn't she?
Yeah, like even, but
And it was
I'm
a
trying to think,
second season.
Dino Blue, probably the kind of obvious one who's went on to do really well.
They
It's a really tough,
can all
yeah,
come on and do quite well. I mean, Epitome was infamously beaten this,
yeah.
won a champion hurdle. So yeah, I mean, it can happen. Last year's renewal when in Cheltenham beat 6.5. That form just simply hasn't worked out at
No,
all
it's really not.
in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, different types can win it. I mean, he's won it with a big Eglinton de Soy outside as well. So there could be something that's practically unraced there that could win this. Yeah, but I think Leconquier he's a mares from it better than I think a lot of people expect. Yeah, getting beat in a race that was eminently winnable is disappointing, but it wasn't that bad.
What's your next performance?
I was quite impressed with Moneygarrow at Windsor. I don't think this is Albert Bartlett horse. I think I wouldn't go that way. I mean, it'd been an eye catcher for me all season. It's been one horse that I would follow all season and put him up at the start of the year as one of five fall because he definitely pays away. I think the horse that he beat of Ollie Murphy's, I think it's probably a superior stare to him.
Okay.
I think he kind of just got a good kind of ride at Windsor, which is a very, very odd track to me. I think I actually think it. I think it's unsuitable as a jump track, to be honest. I think the bends are far too sharp. I'm not a fan. But he got a good stalking ride, pounced when it mattered. And I think he's a steer with a bit of speed. I think I'd worry for him about the hill at Cheltenham. I think they've got that Carlin rig who'll probably go to Doncaster on the River Don this weekend. I think he's more of a Bartlett type in terms of stamina grounds. I think this horse is intriguing. In fact, he's had 4 runs. I thought they might have a kind of cheeky quick run and try and go at Coral Cup or a Martin Pipe, and then go in Grade 1 company to Aintree over 3 miles. They don't seem to be doing that. They seem to be keen enough to go Albert Bartlett, and I think he'd get outstayed in it. But he'd be in with chances, about 25, 33s. I think if they go hard and it's a big field, I'd worry for him about his stamina. But he does have a touch of class and a touch of pace for a 3 mile stare. I think he would cope with 2 mile 5, something like that. But I thought he was a bit of a handicap project, and they seem to be inclined now to go Albert Bartlett, and he need a because I don't think it's the strongest steer, and I think in another couple of strides there, I think he would have been outstayed at Windsor. But the horse that he beat did bungle the last, and he was given a very good ride the day to beat him. And yeah, he's a good horse going forward, and I think he was only like 128. I thought it was like, I think there's a lot of mileage in that mark there, and I thought, given it's the Skeletons, I thought they'd maybe go for a big handicap first before stepping this fell into graded company. But Harry Skelton seems to be suggesting that he's going to go Albert Bartlett, and I think I wouldn't go that way if it was mine. I know he handles Shelton. I mean, he's got that kind of Grade 2 form in there where he was a nice kind of eye-catching fifth in that No Drama this end where he kind of boxed on from the back. Under Tristan Durrell, who would normally ride them, Martin Pipe. I thought he was their Martin Pipe horse. The rules mean that you need to get a lot of runs in, so I thought he might have given a soft run February, and then after winning that, it's probably hard to kind of stay handicapping there when you've kind of got to go into kind of the top echelon in novices now. The hill over 3 miles would worry me because he's definitely not slow, and if it's an attritional race, I think he'd get outstayed. But he'd have to be on the list, but I'm not sure whether an Albert Bartlett would completely play to his strengths. But he's a very, very, very good. He's got a lot more to come.
I was going to ask you about a horse for the Albert Bartlett potentially that won on Sunday, Espresso Milan. You gave him a mention last week.
Yeah.
I took from this one of two things. I think if it was an attritional, old-fashioned Albert Bartlett, I think he would have a real chance. looking at kind of some of the horses that have won it the past few years from the Mullingar, Jasmine Devoe, the Nice Guy, I think if there was a horse in this of that calibre, I don't think he'd be able to go with them. I think it really depends
Yeah,
the setup of the race, how he gets on.
I don't. That's the interesting thing. I think Monagaro has a bit of class about him. I'm not sure if this fella does, and particularly when Paul Townend said afterwards that yeah, he's going to go through the ranks, he'll be a better chaser than he didn't really speak of a top notcher, but you
Yeah.
know, a performance like that, a race that historically works out really well for the Albert Bartlett, and he looks like an Albert Bartlett, and he's near the top of the market, and yeah, he deserves to be, but he's a solid each way player at best. 12-1, fair enough. You know, he's going to go there. He's in the conversation, but maybe something from the Nathaniel Lacey might be a bit flashy and classier. We'll see.
Protectorate. Still there. Windsor, again, I think the horse certainly likes this track more than the jockey. I have looked at the Ryanair market quite a few times, and I think he's potentially, if you look at the market, the third most likely horse to run in this race on that market. Jonbon probably not going to go. Gaelic Warrior, Jangle Bay, don't think they'll go. Hartwood probably will. Masborough, don't see it. Banbridge, no. Grey Donnan, no. Protectorate's third, to me, third favourite if this market's realistic in his 20s. I think he's not out the frame.
Yeah, seen him for Allen Gold Cup, and he still runs pretty well in Ryanair's. And yeah, I mean, to me, that was probably his Gold Cup, wasn't it? You know, looked like he hit it the bag, and then again, it's probably just Windsor, isn't it? Where they go around this bend very quickly, and they all just stack up for some reason, and then he walks away and pulls out more readily. Yeah, he still got a touch of class. He was impressive enough. Retains his ability, and yeah, he'd definitely be worth a spin in the Ryanair if they do that. They wait for entry. I don't know. They might think that that's an easier race. Probably wouldn't be because there's a lot of kind of specific 2.5 mile horses that will go there. He could go to the 3 mile at entry because he would get that trip. You know, he can stay. He was in a three. He was in a handicap before that over 3 mile free and ran perfectly well off top weight. So. Yeah, he could definitely form an each way case, and if you think it cuts up, like it probably would, then he'd be in with an each way shout. You know, he's probably booked for second or third at best. You know, it's hard to see him win, but it might not be if Fact to File keeps running the way that he has at the King George. You know, he needs to get back to that Cheltenham form. If he does, it's there for the taking, and I think a lot of people have kind of given up on the race really because they assume that he will be. So, but yeah, he runs his race. He's a solid type, and you can see him doing so again.
What's your third performance?
I was really impressed with Appreciate It at Thurles. Well, I mean, he's beaten handicappers over inflated marks, and they've got no business being Grade 2 horses. But I mean, at the age of 12, you know, he did this really, really comfortably. He looked the winner from the start. You know, yeah, possibly dictated, but he jumped really efficiently. He looked very enthusiastic. And if you slung him in a Ryanair, I don't think anyone would bat an eyelid.
No.
You know, he's rated 155, 157, something like that. And that's what he did. That's all he needed to do to win it. But I mean, again, you could form a case in a Ryanair and say, like, he's an each way player in it because, you know, that's his level and that's what he can run to kind of get third or fourth, like Protectorate. It was an obvious double on Sunday. Really, I mean, I know if they were younger horses, they would have both been 4-6, 4-7, wouldn't they? I mean, they were in a different league to their opponents. Gentleton, the May, he needs quick ground. You don't get it there.
No.
Simple as that. You know, he's working back from something at Aintree. Hercule de Soy. I mean, the fact that James de Burley get back to 1994. I mean, what are people doing? And what are they seeing? You know, I mean, this is a horse that is, you know, he's a rogue. He's 10 years old, and he's been back to 71 to 94. Do me a favour.
Yeah, nonsense. Just a couple I wanted to mention. I think we have to mention the Hampton novices chase at Windsor, where Salver obviously, Salver could potentially be a good horse down the line, but the other five, I mean, words have to be had with some of them. Like, Wade Out looks to be the most obvious National Hunt Chase plot ever. I don't necessarily know if I would back him for it. I think there's a few in there. I've kind of looked at that market and kind of come up with a couple that we'll maybe talk about. Jericho Derepine, don't understand why people are backing him for anything over a fence. Moon Rocket, outpaced. Lawrence Bay doesn't jump well enough. Doyen Quest is a front runner for something better. It was just a bit of a silly race.
Yeah, I'm not as negative as I mean. Look, Salver ran at Kempton and it was totally unsuitable. Windsor was a bit better because he'd softer ground, and again he outstayed them. Again, Weed Out at very best, optimistically, he's kind of like resplendent grey, but I think he needs. When are the cheap pieces going to go to sharpen up his jumping, though? I mean, he just cannot travel through a race in any sort of comfort zone, even when he was winning at the start of the season. Took a Jonbon masterclass to just keep niggling away and going. He can see that turning up, maybe running well on National Hunt Chase. Same applies for Jericho Derepine, probably more of an Ultima horse. Again, like he's a blatant non-jigger all season. And I do get that. And again, at Windsor, it was plain to see again. The noodle arm John Wayne ride that he got was plain to see. The chicken wings are out, and that suggests trying. It just isn't. But he was mapped out for the Per Thompson, get beat by a stablemate that was pretty unfancied. And you can just see that situation happening again, really, couldn't you, in Ultima?
Yeah, he's not going to get a Camure either. There's markets still there with him in it.
He's not a natural born winner.
No.
When the chips are down anyway. So the fact that it was lobbed in a Per Thompson still didn't win it means that even if he's lobbed in again here, he might not win. So I'd be mindful of him a little bit. He'd be a player, but he's not one to trust. And he logged in behind Dory the Great that day, and he had every chance that he was on the he was on the kind of blacklist really after that for me. I didn't like the way he kind of hung in behind, and I can see him doing that again, even when it's supposed to be the correct day for him. So definitely mindful of him. Lawrence Bay, again, one of these horses that, wins at that bend. He made this sweeping move and hit the front and then checked out of it. That could be a National Hunt horse as well, potentially. And Moon Rocket drifted in the market because he's only taken on 2 horses in his life because of these stupid novice chases, beginning chases that we have where you take on nobody and you walk over. So he's totally lacked any kind of experience at that proper level. So I think the winner's a good horse when he's got soft ground, his conditions, and again he's definitely a Dirrell Stayer. He with a touch of class at that level, and he's only 6, and he was a high class handicapper. So. And he's kind of boosted elements of some decent form for Lalamba down the line. So he is what he is. He's no world beater. I think.
Can I throw a race at you for next season that he might have a chance on?
He looks like a kind of old Bet365 Gold Cup.
I thought a Betfair Chase horse if it was really, really deep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I could see that. I can see that. He's not the big stiff fences, and he jumps quite well. I can see him being a kind of high class Welsh national next year, or like Bet365 at Sandown or something like that. I mean, I'd be very surprised if he's a top graded notcher, but 147, 150, he'd probably bumped up to 150. I think that's what he is, which is a million miles away from top class as a novice. So. He's quite a hardly likeable horse, isn't he? But he's definitely vulnerable come springtime, particularly in good ground. He definitely needs a bit of cut.
A couple of questions. I think I've seen probably the best bumper performance I've seen so far. I just don't know if I'd back him for Cheltenham. Irish Avatar. I thought he was good. The Gigginstown horse is the first Gigginstown horse I've seen in the past 2 years with any sort of turn of foot. So wouldn't back him for Cheltenham, but probably a decent horse in his own right. How far does Myertown retain the Ultima by?
I can see why he's been backed. You know, a lot of people put him up. Clever people at 16s, 12s. It's now 8s in places, isn't he?
Yeah, 10s I've got here.
I'd be a bit worried about him, to be honest.
Is the yard form a real concern? I'm going to get into that later.
Jumping's a concern. Yeah. I mean, he seems to randomly put down. He did it in Newbury. Mistake came out the blue. He did it again there. Mistake was out the blue.
He's not beaten far though, even though he makes a horrendous mistake.
Yeah, but he kind of came back into it over the last, and then he logged in behind, and he was hanging, and he seemed to not like that. Which, I mean, he never really get past anybody. Like, he looked like he could come back into a winning chance over the last, and he still finished fourth. But they've all finished in a heap. Like, the jockey went too slow up front, really. I'd prefer Patrick Wadge on him again. That might make the difference. I think he's better. At Cheltenham, he's front. Is he going to get a solo again? And if he doesn't get it his own way, does he kind of spit the dummy out a little bit? To me, I think he might. He could randomly put down on you at any point. He's very boom or bust. If you're backing him, ignore the each way part of it.
Yeah,
he's definitely well handicapped, but you know, I mean, people would have watched Ultima last year and they don't think he'd. You know,
inconceivable. Yeah.
Is he going to get a solo? And there's a big mistake in him, and that would be a resender. So without doubt, he's well handicapped. Can get him back. The yards haven't really fired all season. Yeah, he's definitely talented. He's definitely better than his mark. But again, he's going to go off short again, and he's a bit expensive to follow, particularly this season. I mean, I've backed him twice where he's going well. We think he's going to win, and the worst aspect of it was that he bloody hampered Richmond Lake. He was cruising in behind, and he had to switch and get beat at the line. And if he didn't have to switch, he would have won. So that annoyed me because they were both tanking along. There were only two that went off the bridle. And then that mistake changed the race completely. But I didn't like what I saw after that because his jumping subsequently fell apart. He didn't jump the last two cleverly, and even though he was still in it, he hung badly left and behind. And I wouldn't like to see that because I think if he's a horse that's headed, I think he might be one that chucks in the towel a little bit. And can he secure a lead like he did in last season's renewal? I think I suspect other jockeys will be wise to it. So when taken on, I'd be a bit doubtful about him.
Yeah, similar to Johnny Who. I just think his opinion now is an absolute yoke.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Who's just.
Or is it?
Not trying, is he?
Is it just bad riding? I don't know.
Well, he didn't go hard enough, did he? But the issue is, I mean, it'd be interesting if they put cheek pieces on him. I mean, he's a hoist in your mark too, isn't he? Yeah. You know, there's a lot of ridiculous talent. You know, he's well in, but there are risks attached with him, and it's in the jumping department and his attitude. If he's not able to dominate or dictate, he spits the dummy out. Is he going to be able to do that again? Possibly, but he's definitely not straightforward. And it'd be interesting what they do down the line. Like they might put cheek pieces on to focus him, but you know, he either wins or falls, or if he doesn't win, you know, he makes a big mistake and he's out the places. So you know what risks are attached with him. And 8-1 in Ultima, you know, is he going to get the ideal setup again? Like he might be well enough. You know, he's still in the Gold Cup, for instance, so he could kind of ride him from the front anyway, ride him very aggressively, and he's going to stay there and make sure that he doesn't get headed, and he's just going to jump round. And you know, he's very effective around Cheltenham and in springtime. So yeah, you're just mindful of what's in the ears with him, because you know, a mistake, and the mistakes in the last two races have come from absolutely nowhere. You know, it's probably when you're at the happiest, or he's lobbing around, he's quite comfortable, and then he just puts down on you, which is a bit of a nightmare, really.
Yeah, well, let's get into it this weekend. We'll start with Doncaster. We'll do some previewing for the racing coming up. Good racing at Doncaster. We've got the River Don novices hurdle. The aforementioned Carlin Rigg is in here at 4-1 for the Skeltons. Kiko La and Rocket Man at 5-1. Ben Paulin and Sam Thomas. Country Code, Step Ahead, The Price of Peace. The Devil Uno's in here for Paul Nolan. Bit of a hard race to call at this point, isn't it? Literally anything can win this.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kickour and Carlin Rigg are probably the right two to focus on. Carlin Rigg is a penalty, obviously, from the last day at Cheltenham. That might swing away to Kickour, but I thought the market latched on the correct two there at the top. It's a race that I can happily wait to see the final field of anyway.
Yeah, it's not a great race for kind of if you're backing it with Cheltenham in mind, it doesn't really work out very well. Mayor's Hurdle at Doncaster, Callum. Nurse Susan, you said obviously last week quite rightly about the fact that she was running the wrong race at 2 miles. They seem to be going here. Feet of a Dancer's also in here for Paul Nolan. Jatara, Dream On Baby, Supreme Malin. It's not a great race, but you'd fancy Nurse Susan here, would you not?
Not particularly. I think Feet of a Dancer might be the one to beat. I thought she ran very well against Wood, who only beaten 2 and a bit. Probably more of a 3 miler. Jatara has won this race before, bit exposed, and not really fired at all this season. It's been quite a good wee while since he's kind of turned up. Interesting, but the definitive Irish challenge would be. I'd probably back Feet of a Dancer, to be honest.
Okay.
If she turned up.
Okay, and we've got the Great Yorkshire Chase here over 3 miles, Deep Cave and Grand Jest round about kind of 4-1. Doc picked me at 15-2. You've got Elisa Walking in Air, Highland, Josh the Boss. Anything you like in here?
Pass.
Yeah, quite competitive. Deep Cave, I think, is interesting. I think there is obviously
that's
a
progressive, isn't it? That could be
plan.
you could see that running a Scottish National in the season.
Yeah, I think there's definitely maybe an Eider Chase maybe as well. That could be an option down the line. There's definitely something long term with him. But we'll go to Trials Day. We've got 8 very fascinating races. We'll go for the first one, the Time Form Novices Chase. I don't think he'll win this, but I am very interested of the fact that a certain Gordon Elliott horse that I've spoke to you about a couple of times has been given a British mark of 141. I think Wingmen, I've backed him for both the Kimmuir and the National Hunt Chase. Don't really care which he goes in if he's 141. I think he's beaten better horse. Well, he's been beaten by a lot better horses than weighed out. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's the difference in looking at what Wingman's been up against. He's been behind Final Demand, Predators Gold, and Cade Dorothy. They would lap weighed out in a race. These beginners' chases are better races than the graded races in the UK.
Yeah, and he's definitely operated to get a mark to get into these races. He looks a stayer. I'd probably be inclined to think National Hunt Chase is his race.
I think it's probably more likely, yeah.
141's it's a mark that can do damage. You know, is he actually going to run here? Probably not.
I think he needs one more run.
Probably just fishing, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
Might run at the DRF instead. You know, he could run in any kind of beginner's chase that he wants because he's not won yet. He's definitely on the radar. You know, there's been a couple of runs that have been more eye-catching than not. I mean, you'd expect him to kind of build on what he did the first 8 and having a little bit better than he did. Arguably, he hasn't. But again, is that because you want to preserve a mark that's in the low 140s? Yeah, there's mileage there. It's definitely one to track. I wouldn't be backing things for Kimmuir's or National Hunt Chases yet because I think there's too many contenders to decipher.
Jaguar won this last year. Do you think there's a Jaguar in this?
Usually is, isn't it? It's usually a race that works out quite well. I mean, Jacob's Ladder and King of Kingsfield as well. You know, there is King of Kingsfield to the side early in the season, and there's definitely kind of two and a half mile potential with him over that mark. So it's an interesting race for novices, definitely. But I can't pinpoint anything at the moment.
We'll go to the Grade 2 juvenile trial, Triumph Hurdle trial. Maestro Conti in here at 13-8, Manila Yoga at 3-1. Nicky Henderson has two potential debutants in Filga and Manlaga. Imagine one of them would go. One Horse Town obviously won the trial at Cheltenham back in December. There's other horses in here as well. Hardly Stuff, maybe coming over for the Elliots. Mac Toad has been pretty impressive as well before. This is quite an interesting race. Again, declarations aren't confirmed, but with an eye to a later race in the afternoon, I'm very interested to see what Manila Yoga does, but I'm very concerned about the Paul Nicholls form at the moment.
Yeah, it could be a little bit better. 2 for 37 the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Elliots isn't great either, to be fair.
Yeah, and Elliott's kind of he's maybe beginning to have a little bit of a dip after a very sustained strong start. It's Maestro Conti. I mean, he's an entry horse, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he's a
I mean,
Triumph horse.
I don't. I mean, a lot of people are taken by his debut. I mean, I think this is miles off Triumph. I can't believe he's second favourite for Triumph. It's beyond belief. I think Manila Yoga's done far more. Kempton Good Grounds, where he won that day. This is completely different. It's going to be softer. It's going to be stiffer. I think he's a shocking price at 13-8. They're looking to take him on. And you've got these kind of Henderson horses that could be anything really. Manlaga, there wasn't a good word for him when they took him out to Chepstow, but that was a good decision because the ground there was far quicker than described. It caught out Mac Toad badly. He did the right thing pulling it out, probably because he's forming heavy ground at Etoy, so he could come back, but he's drifting as if he's not going to run.
Yeah, Feel Gut was second behind Macho Man. Obviously, the Donnellys bought both of them, so there's definitely something there with him, I think.
Yeah, again, I think you're kind of guessing, in these races, and it might just be a kind of sit back and watch race, really. But Nicholls Yard were going great guns. I would probably have backed Manila Yoga. One Horse Town, one in November, then get beat in December, was third behind the Adam Nicol horse and Winston Jr., who was second. Sets a standard. Probably didn't turn up that day. He just didn't really run his race. Maybe because he had two quick runs beforehand. He was in the go. I mean, he was even running over like at Stratford in July. So maybe the kind of a fourth run of the year kind of caught up with him a little bit. But he does have a mark of 131. That's probably what he is. And then you've got the Chepstow foreman behind. You could forgive Mac Toad because I think the ground was just totally unsuitable for him. Colin Elliott's put in a one or two in. It's a race that I don't have much of an opinion on, but I think the favourite is a little bit on the short side.
Well, the 115, the Betfair Exchange handicap chase, Jaguar is 7-4. Booster Bob's in here, Javert Allen. Jaguar looks really, really interesting, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Vincenzo was 6-4, wasn't he, when he won it? Asked it the other week, weaker race, and you just have to kind of get used to the fact that competitive handicaps are you get 2-1 or short on the favourite. Get the best form. I thought he was the obvious eye catcher in that December Gold Cup, where he was third. He was just maybe just a little bit too far back. Will be beaten just a shade under 2 lengths, and he's the obvious one that can go into bigger and better things. He could take this out and run a Ryanair, for instance. It's probably too fast for Booster Bob. Yeah, Triple Trade's a kind of winning kind of these races in veterans company. I think GPR won with a bit of help from the handicapper could be a player in a race still this season, but he does need help. Risking the ground might take his chance, but it's a race that's very, very difficult to look away from the favourite, and he's going to be short, but I think he's probably a winner.
Yeah, let's get into the most exciting race in this card, the cross country handicap chase. Duvari de l'Est against Final Orders. Again, there's £17. I think there's actually more than that. £17 of a difference between between them now. Obviously, Final Orders won the race in November. You've got Iso Madrick and the Goffer in here as well. Move on.
It's between the top two again, isn't it? It's the same horses every year. It's the same. Yeah, it's between. I mean, you have to back one of the top two, don't you?
Yeah, the
Goffer, in the ground, I don't know what I mean. The ground's quicker, isn't it? It's good to soft there, and that'll suit Final Orders. But I mean, probably the best one I've had all year when he won at 16s in that race. It's the only piece of form that could go on.
The Goffer might run his race, but again, you're just
he's hard to trust, isn't he?
Yeah, a wee bit. Yeah,
he's yeah. I mean, he might come into the occasion in spring, but the French horse probably once it's softer. He was third in December, wasn't he? Ran all right, but yeah, I mean, I think you just kind of look at it on the day. The favourite is weighted to turn it around. He's a bit younger and a bit fresher. You can see why he's kind of been back to turn that form around a little bit. But I think Final Orders won that quite snugly. He does have a touch of back class, like I alluded to the previous day, and he is that kind of type that you can see doing really, really well in this sphere. I just can't get interested about it at all.
Well, there's other races. The next four are Grade 2, so we might have a bit more. Again, maybe not great betting races, but we'll cover the Cotswold Chases next. Grey Dawning is in here at 1-2. Obviously, first run since the Betfair Chase. Long Press 4-1. Spillans Tower 5-1. Stellar Stories in at 12s. And I genuinely think there's a possibility that Gavin Cromwell might have entered Flooring Porter for the wrong race, because I was just assuming I think there was a mention in a stable tour he was going Cleve. I'm not sure what the plan is here.
Just change his mind, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
Grey Dawning, are you surprised?
He's got nothing to beat here, does he? I mean, Flooring Porter won last time I was seen was a list where he won. A very decent kind of handicap as well by 4 and a bit. So September 2024. So, and he has a chasing experience. So yeah, splitting hairs, but he did say that, but he's entitled to need this regardless of what they do, if they go stairs or whatever, Stellar Stories, bit exposed, 154 sums him up. Splanster's got to go back and upgrade. Long Press, Venetia Williams just can't. You were saying that Paul Nicholls is out of form. Yes. Venetia Williams is badly out of form, could pop up, but in Grey Dawning,
37 days since the last one. Venetia Williams,
just higher rated, less to prove. He was going to fell in his lap a bit, but he's quite a high class. The track isn't a problem. There's distance, and 1-2 is very prohibitive. I think he probably goes and does what Protectorat did in the weekend and win this. There's a lot of these races around. You've got the Denman coming up, the Fleur de Lis, you've got this, and this is why this is falling apart as a race. He's there. He's going to be hard to knock. He's probably not stopped improving, and yeah, he can't seem to be cut for a Gold Cup after this, but you'd expect him to go and do the business. Whether you want to run at 1-2, you might just sit back and watch it, I think.
Next one, we've got the Unibet Hurdle. Sergino versus the New Line. Sergino's 1-2. The New Line is 2-1. Pony Ross is in here at 12. It's interesting to see if he takes this up. He's obviously not going to get a handicap mark, so they might as well throw him in races like this. What do we think of Sergino against the New Line?
Again, 1-2, £3. I mean, I think this is going to be. This could probably be the first genuine race Sergino will have in his life. His best performance to be has been over fences at Kempton. I think he's kind of bloodlessly took out a race at Newcastle, which he's entitled to do at the Fighting Fifth last season. I think he was exactly the same at Christmas. I think he kind of did what he expected. I think there's a rival here that's got a bit of substance about him. Yeah, okay, 2 miles might be a little bit uncomfortable, but I still think he'd a winning chance in the Fighting Fifth if he stayed up. I think he kind of got in the lead that he didn't enjoy, bit novice he found out. But I definitely don't think it's that bad. And on hurdling figures, he's not far away. Is it a race I would bet on? Like the nature of it, probably not. Again, it's going to be tactical. Sergino thinks it's a likely winner, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if the New Line turned him over. I really wouldn't be. But would I bet 1-2 against 2-1? Isn't it really? I'd have no interest in playing in those margins.
I'm quite torn here because I think it would be good for the champion hurdle if the New Line won here, but I also don't want Sergino to get beat because I think we need superstars.
Yeah. He could be the kind of, he's the horse that you think he'd be unbeaten and roll on, but he's not massively clear in the figures because he hasn't needed to be.
No.
But he will need to step up a little bit here, and he looks eminently capable of doing so. And he's given the New Line £3, but I don't think it's a complete penalty kick foregone conclusion, but it looks like a kind of wait and see race. I'd probably just watch it. I don't really see much of a betting angle here because I don't think Poneros is good enough. I mean, he's given a mark of 149. I mean, he's basically at £10 to find here, really. And it's essentially again a 4-5 runner race. So to bet on it, you need a kind of very definitive view. But Sergino was like 2-5, 49. He's now out 1-2, and I think people are just kind of maybe seeing the kind of numbers and say actually there's not a lot between these two what they've actually done. Sergino's probably speedier, probably classier, probably better, but it's probability, not definitive, and I think that's why they're narrowing the market slightly.
Right, we'll go into the Cleve hurdle. Imposed Trois is 11-8. Thelem looks to be in the comeback trail with 3-1. Strong leader 5-1. It's a race that can burn a punter. I think if you look at it, I know he's giving away weight, but I think Imposed Trois should, if he wants to be a stairs hurdle contender, I think he has to win this.
Yeah, and again, he's put in short, isn't he? And I think he's probably just better than these. The French horse that gets constantly talked about that never runs is here on second favourite, and Lord knows why. But I mean, Gold Tweet took this out, didn't he? From nowhere, really, and he's probably lesser rated than him, and Imposed Trois got £6, so you could be blindsided by him. The fact that horse is there in the race looks like it's going to run, skews the market a bit, and I can't see myself having a bet in this.
I think Imposed Trois, I think Imposed Trois win. I actually think he's quite a good bet at 11-8. I think he's better than Thelem and should hammer him. I think the next race is probably the race I'm most fascinated with all weekend because there was a big shout out from the owner of Active Innocence during the week that said he's been working just as good as Old Part Star. Now, there's been a massive gamble on him in the Turners market. He's now 12-1 best price in some places. He's 13-8 to take this out. I think that when owners talk like that and market moves like that, you have to take it seriously, I think. And I think this is a big vote. The fact that Old Part Star's only been given a supreme entry and this boy's here suggests to me that they think they could win both races.
I think it's completely irrelevant.
Okay.
Completely, utter tosh. He was beaten fair and square at Newbury.
Giving away a lot of weight, though.
Yeah, but it's still beaten, at odds on, they're now piling in again. I can see why, he's probably better than these. Is he a 13-8 chance in my book? No. I think Taurus Bay is a very good horse. I think he could win.
I don't think the Toby Laws horse is bad either. I thought he was.
Madrid was second in the Channel. Yeah. Heads Up's been second to No Drama this end as well. It was far too free, and if he settles, he's in with a chance. He's there in figures. They obviously believe in him a lot, right? I mean, Old Part Star he's always going supreme. He's going for a supreme trial, so he has a better horse than Active Innocence. But burning down the gallops, honestly, who cares?
Yeah, I get that. I just think when
I mean, it's just an excuse for people to just pile in, but pile in blind and rhetoric. He got beat. Is he an out and out 2.5 miler? I mean, he's rated 134. I mean, he's not done anything to suggest that he's top class. I mean, Sinatra's came out frank the form that he did the last day a little bit, but I don't think that horse is. I mean, I think if you put that in a graded race, I think he would struggle personally, because I don't think he's got the temperament to win top graded races. You've got the second, the Channel here, that's 71 against him. Taurus Bay, he looked, I thought, pretty good at entry from Captain Hugo's, came out and won since. Again, I just think that kind of stuff is overblown. What is he supposed to say, that my horse is rubbish?
No, I know, but I think when you saw a performance at Old Park Star and he's coming out and saying, because originally I think when we thought Active Innocence was probably the one for the Supreme, and Old Park Star might go Turners, when they're now switching them about.
That's what Nicky Henderson said in Gut Instinct. I mean, I was fortunately I was able to actually cash out in the Old Park Star when they went Haydock route. But for the Turners at 33s, I just think Old Park Star's better than him. I mean, you can have. I mean, Active Innocence works better than Old Park Star. Nicky Henderson says that himself. So he's a better workhorse. Is he a better horse on the track? At the moment, no. And what Old Park Star did in his second start was far better than what Active Innocence did. And that's why he's rated a lot higher. I just think that I think owners, obviously, there's massive faith in his horse. Why wouldn't you? I mean, we've talked about Barry Connor beforehand. You would, and he's obviously a very good workhorse. Should he be a 74 13 to 8 chance in this? Personally, I would say no, because we haven't seen it yet. But he could be. 2.5 miles could be the making of him. I just think there's the sea of blue on him for this race and for the Turners is based on a quote, not form, and that's dangerous.
I think this is a better race than the market suggests. I do think Taurus Bay is a decent horse. I actually was contemplating putting up Clint Magic for an Albert Bartlett. I think he is potentially the one out of the Charlo to take for that race. I think there's good opposition again. Callan Rigg probably isn't going here. I kind of think the Turners needs a bit of a shake-up. I think No Drama this end is a bit short, and if this boy does win, wants to go. I am more interested to see what Manila Yoga does. If Manila Yoga wins a Triumph trial, I think there's definitely something that this boy could be quite decent.
He could. I mean, they could be right, but I mean, I just think people are backing this horse on hearsay and what they want him to be, rather than what he's actually achieved. And there's no grounds for him being that short in the Turners and in this. He could do it, but you've got to go and do it. And he's been backed as if he's already done it, and he hasn't. He's not Old Park Star. He's not in that league. I think Mighty Park might be the one in that race now. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's definitely something that should emerge really to tackle the long-term favourite for this race. Could happen there. It could happen. This could be Active Innocence. Could be Taurus Bay. It's a decent enough race for something to put their hat on. They've latched on to Active Innocence. I think maybe a bit too swiftly, but he could be the one.
Well, we'll have a look, obviously, and it's an exciting trials day, just in terms of anti-post, obviously in terms of entries, novice hurdles. What was your kind of main eye-catcher in terms of kind of entries before we wrap up? Except the fact Copacabana is not obviously fit enough, but any other eye-catching entries from the kind of novice races that caught your eye this week?
No, I think they're all kind of there, aren't they, really? I mean, Cormac and John didn't make it either. It's just maybe a bit disappointing for the Bartlett, because he looked like maybe the percentage call British candidates in that race. No, I think the entries are kind of it's more about who's not there rather than who is there at that stage, isn't it? I don't think there was any major shocks.
Okay. Well, we will wrap up the show there for this week, Callum. We'll be back, and next week we're going to have a wee double episode. We'll obviously do our normal episode, and we'll have a special Dublin Racing Festival preview show, so we'll look forward to that, mate. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yep, take care.
Right.
See you later.
We'll see you all soon. Thank you very much.